Welcome to Refirement Life, the podcast for anyone navigating life transitions or planning to make life transitions to ensure your next years are your best years. Listen in for insightful, generous, and sometimes humorous conversation. It's time to get fired up with Christine Zamuda and Muge Wood, your hosts for this latest episode of Refirement Life.
Welcome to Refirement Life. This is episode 81, and you are in for a real treat. Today's guest is someone you are going to absolutely love because she brings a rare mix of joy, wisdom, and real-world adventure to the conversation. We're joined by Monique Rhodes, a happiness specialist, originally from the stunning country of New Zealand, where she still loves capturing the beauty of the countryside through photography whenever she's home. Now, Monique is very accomplished. She has been recognized for her impact in a big way. She's been nominated for multiple awards, and in 2010, she was even nominated for New Zealander of the Year. Fantastic. And here's the fun twist. Monique is also an accomplished singer-songwriter. She's opened on 2 European tours for music legend Chuck Berry, produced 2 platinum charity albums, worked on a music project with His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. Just incredible, incredible life. And you're so young to have accomplished all of this so far. Now, Monique is the creator of the 10-Minute Mind, a meditation course designed for people who think they can't meditate. And she also has a daily podcast called In Your Right Mind, helping people build happiness and calm in practical, doable ways. Today, we're exploring something we want more of, friendship, community, and the habits that bring more joy into everyday life. Welcome to the podcast, Monique Rhodes.
So happy to be here. Christine, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, let's dig into it. There's so much research that's coming out now that says social connection, friendships are more important than even exercise to have a healthy and long life. But, why do friendships feel a bit harder as adults than they were when we were young? Yes. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that the biggest thing is that when we're young, right, Christine, like we have all this excitement about we meet someone and there's possibility everywhere. But as we get older, we start to understand if I go down this path, this will be the result. If I go down this path, this will be the result. And so what we end up doing is we begin to understand a lot better. This person who maybe when I was younger, I would have been blown away by and really interested in, doesn't interest me anymore. Because I've refined my tastes in the sort of people that work well for me in my life. But there's another problem that happens, and that is as we get older, let's say we're talking about when we're in retirement age, where maybe we're retiring, maybe our kids have, left home. That transition of our life also is stripping away the automatic social structures that have really sustained us for decades. And that's an important thing to understand. So at work, we don't have to make new friends as much because those structures are in place of those people that we're seeing consistently. So we kind of lose that muscle. When we're younger, we go out and we drink alcohol and we party and we have heaps of fun and we meet heaps of people. That all changes. People are settled, they're having children, and that muscle that we had when we were younger for actually going out and dynamically meeting people becomes really, really weak.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I think just being, you mentioned earlier, almost being more discerning and thinking about if I go down this path, what happens? And then the whole idea of it is actually a skill that you have to develop, practice to keep at it makes a ton of sense. Makes a ton of sense. So you talk about happiness being something that we can cultivate. How does this apply, do you think, to friendships and community?
I mean, one of the most basic things is this. we all know what it's like to be around someone who drains our energy. Okay?
Mhm.
It's not fun, right? And we all have an aversion to that. If you want to make friends, one of the most important things that you have to understand is that if you walk into a room and you're the person that brings energy, that brings light, that brings positivity, you are going to attract more people. That's just the reality. So understanding what an effect our happiness has on everybody else. Like, let's say, for example, you come home from work every day and your husband or your wife or your partner is, just a downer. You are not going to look forward to going home. That's the truth, right? So
Mhm.
it's very important for us to understand that in all of our connections, whether they're with our partners or our families, taking responsibility for our happiness has massive impact on our whole life. It impacts our job, it impacts our friendships, it impacts our family. So the more well we can be in ourselves, the more joyful our life is going to be, because we're going to be consistently reflected back. The light that we put into the world will consistently be reflected back to us in the exact same way, Christine. If we go into the world and we're even just a little bit negative, or
Mhm.
oh, this is going on, that's going on, if people come away not feeling so good, they're not going to want to be around you as much. So you need to make yourself into a person that attracts people. And by that, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying to go into the world inauthentically. I'm not
Mhm.
saying when you have a hard day that you go, well, I don't want anyone to see because people won't like me. It's about going into the world as much as possible with that light, but at the same time, when you have a difficult time, to deal with it in yourself as much as possible. And that's a really important distinction, to
Mhm.
actually do the work, deal with your stuff, take responsibility for yourself, but to do everything that you can to not spread it. And I
Mhm.
want to give you an example where this will make sense, right? Let's say I'm driving to work in the morning and some dude, because it's usually a dude, cuts me off in the traffic and I get a real fright and oh my God, he could have killed me and
Mhm.
all this, right? There's two ways that I can handle this. The old way is to ring my partner and say, oh my God, you wouldn't believe what happened. Then I get to work, oh my God, you wouldn't believe what happened.
Mhm.
And the thing is that the brain doesn't understand the difference between what's actually happening and what happened. So while you are going through that experience of telling the story again, your whole nervous system is activated in the exact same way that it was when it happened, right?
Mhm.
So that's the first thing. You are going through this scarier experience over and over and re-traumatizing yourself, and you're also creating this little bit of drama for everybody else that ultimately doesn't feel really good.
Mhm.
Instead, what you could do is you could say to yourself, you know what? That gave me such a fright. And then the deal is to let it go, to not call your partner, to not tell anybody at work, and deal with that in yourself. The research shows that an emotion lasts for 90 seconds. Anything after that is you actually feeding it with your stories. So we have to be careful about what comes out of our mouth and the stories we tell. One, because it's affecting our nervous system. And two, it's also affecting the people that we're around. Again, everybody wants to be around the person that brings the light. That's the truth. So really focus on what you can give in relationship rather than what you can get.
I love that. I love that. It's the simple law of attraction too. But I heard other things that we have choices on how we're going to react to something, and as a result, you can drive your own level of happiness. And as you said, be someone that is positive to be around or be someone who's not so positive to be around, right?
Yeah.
We've got, it reminds me of, I've got a group of friends, and we started playing tennis together, and we assembled this league for people who wanted to learn how to play, have fun, not be too serious. And we gathered this group, and as a result, it was just a really interesting chemistry now that's lasted 20 years. And when you said that, you want to be the person who people want to be around, this group, you could sit next to any single one of these women at the table, not have to choose. And it's a fabulous time because, and it's so, unique. And I still have a lot of people say like, wow, 14 women, you do this together. There's no drama. Like, there's no drama. So I think like some of that we curated, some of that we developed, and now, as people are starting to look for that recipe to go through life, even with the little things that you mentioned, it's so important to be aware and operate at that higher frequency, see the whole big picture.
And also just do it selfishly, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I feel good, if I feel happy, if I take responsibility for my happiness, not only do I feel good, but everybody feels good, which makes me feel better. Mm-hmm. So you got to know that it's a total win for you if you do this work.
I love it. I love it. So let's go back to the aspect of creating real and authentic friendships. What do you think are some of the biggest mindset traps that stop people from being successful there?
I think that we talk about mindset traps, Christine. I think that people are self-conscious. That's what I see a lot in my work. They'll get to this particular moment of, oh my God, I actually need to make more friends. And they will be very afraid that they're not interesting enough. Mm-hmm. Why would someone want to be my friend? How can I show up and maybe I'm retired and I don't have anything to say about myself? Or maybe I just work and I'm an IT specialist, and what do I have to bring to the table? And so I think that's one of the biggest things. I think also that people are afraid of doing things alone. So they'll often do things with their partner. And that also is problematic because it means that you don't have the ability to meet someone one-on-one because you're relying on your partner. So it's that thing of, just not being able to make the hook. And I think also one of the biggest mindset problems is people don't know how to do this. Like it kind of happens naturally in a lot of places. And when it comes to a moment where all the research is showing us we have to make connection, we have to be in community, people don't know how to do it. So, in my life, I've traveled most of my life. And when I say traveled, I mean, I did 13 years straight living out of a bag. I rode for 4 years through India by myself. I am the master of making connections. Okay. And 3 years ago, I moved here to a little beach town on the west coast of Costa Rica. And when I got here, it was like, I've got to make friends, right? So it gives you a lot of freedom because it means that whatever you're doing in your world, if you know how to do it, then you can do anything. And I came here by myself. I didn't come here in a relationship. And so, often when we're in a relationship, we use that as a sort of softer landing pad. But there's a lot of people that would go, oh my God, I could never move to a new country that I'd never been to, not knowing anybody by myself, because that's just too scary by myself. But all of it is absolutely possible. And I like to be living testament of it, Christine.
I love it. I love it. Well, and to your point of doing things with your partner consistently, that just keeps your world small, right? You might have a new experience, but it can be broadened so much by other people and the sum of everything that they know and like. And There's I was listening to Zeke Emanuel. He's written a new book. And it's like six ways to a happier life, and it includes eating ice cream. So it got my attention. But one of the things that he was talking about was the social connection and saying that typically an average person can manage about 150 people in their lives. That's friends, family, close friends, acquaintances. And, you really need like 5 to 6 really, really good friends. I think sometimes that's also a little bit limiting because people get very comfortable with their 5 or 6 friends and don't explore beyond that group. And again, to the point of having your world be a little bit small, you're just kind of experiencing sometimes the same conversations, the same things, and there's a big world out there, as you surely know.
Yeah, I'd like to disagree with him about eating ice cream because we all love ice cream. There's no doubt about it. And I make my own ice cream. I don't eat any dairy and I don't eat any sugar and I make my own ice cream. So I would say everybody should eat my ice cream because the effect that different foods have on your happiness is really profound. So it's a really good thing for us to be aware of also is what, changes our mood. So I just want to note that. But on what he's saying about these 150 people, I mean, I think putting numbers on anything is tricky. Like I have a lot of people in my life and I'm like, and I would think that I don't even know if I would have that 150 people. I think it's a lot. But I think one of the things for us to understand when we think about friendships that's really helpful is that there are a lot of micro connections that make up a foundation of a life. So I want to explain to you what my life is like here. I have friends all over the world, and my oldest friend and I have been friends since we were 4 years old, and we talk every week, and we're super, super, super close all these years later, right? So I know how to do longevity in friendships. What I find where I am now is I have 2 types of friends here, right? And then there's another circle of people that I want to explain. My first type of friend is my heart friends. They are the people that I can tell anything to, that I can tell my heart to, that I can be deeply, deeply vulnerable with. And those friends are incredibly precious. Then I have what I call, because I'm a New Zealander, I call them my mates. They are the people that I play tennis with, I play pickleball with, I go to trivia night with. They're my playmates. I might go surfing, boogie boarding with them. It's all focused around fun and play. And some of my heart friends, that's a crossover, and we play as well. But I'm very clear that I don't need the people at tennis, the people at pickleball, the people at the beach to know what is going on for me. And I've been playing tennis for the 3 years I've been here with a bunch of women, and they know very, very little about my life, okay? And it's perfect. They don't need to. I don't want them to. But I promise you, if ever anything happened to me, they would be there for me in a heartbeat, okay? So that's a powerful thing for us to understand. But then outside of that, I have a bunch of people who make up a beautiful part of the fabric of my life. And some of them are the people at the supermarket that I have a personal connection with, or the lady who, comes and does a little bit of work around my house. There's endless people that we have these micro connections with. And I think that it's vital that we understand how important they are. Because when we're going into the world, the truth is that we just want to know we exist. And when we go to the coffee store and, or like I went to one of my favorite restaurants the other day, and, Eddie comes out, he's like, "Mon, I'm so happy to see you." And I see him once a month and it just feels so good. He makes a fuss of me. And so those little connections, I don't know anything about his life. He knows nothing about my life. They are really, really an important part. And so in our practice of building connection and friendship, one of the things I really encourage people to do is look at those micro connections and take care of them. So just for argument's sake, when I go to the supermarket, I live in a country where, a lot of the girls, predominantly it's girls working at the supermarket, don't have a lot of money. And so every so often I will go and buy a block of chocolate, which I don't eat myself, unfortunately, because I don't eat sugar. I buy a block of chocolate and gift it to them for working on the checkout as I leave. What happens? They feel amazing. They take care of me in any way they can when I come in. And suddenly my micro connection is something that brings incredible joy to both of us. Mm-hmm. So it's important for us to understand that there's the ability for connection everywhere. And for us not to look at a particular type of friend as being, well, this is the most important. But actually, everywhere we go, we have the ability to have uplifting, loving, joy-filled connections with everybody. And if we're the person that brings that says hello to the person at the supermarket and calls them by their name and just says, how are you doing today? Then it's a two-way street, and that makes us feel better as well. So really understanding that all those different levels of connection are vital.
That's great. I'm glad you called that out. I think that's really important. And I think it's important to stop and really see someone, like take a moment, pause, like look someone in the eye directly instead of just thank you. People are rushing through life, and it does make a really big difference. Like you said, those micro moments really add up.
And the thing, research shows the thing people most want to hear is their own name. Mm-hmm. So if you can find out someone saying, when I go to that restaurant, it's, hi, Eddie, how you doing today? It's not just, oh, hi, how you doing? Hi, Eddie, how are you doing? That deepens that connection even better, makes them feel even better when you walk into that restaurant.
Right. And we all can relate to that, hearing our own names.
But we forget it. We forget it, don't we?
We do.
Just little things. It's just little things that can make a game changer.
Yeah. So moving on to our next topic here. So many people crave community, but they're exhausted. They're busy. They're burned out. I hear a lot of people say like, well, I'll do that when I'm retired, or I, can't wait. I'm, jealous that you're doing that. I can't do that because I've got a job or something like that. But what kind of going on to that micro moments, what are a few small, low effort, but maybe high impact strategies for people who want to build connections without being so overwhelmed?
Okay. So the first thing is this. This is a really important thing for us to understand. Most of us finish our work or finish our day, and we do two things usually that drain huge amounts of energy. Any idea what they are, Christine?
I would say people probably scroll on their phone and watch TV. Screens.
You got both of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we don't understand is that if we finish our day and we are doing what I call passive rest, it actually drains more energy than it gives us. Mm-hmm. So I live a life where I am up at 5 o'clock every morning. I do my meditation practice. I do my writing. I go down. I walk my dogs at the beach. I start work at 7 o'clock. I work through to about 3:30. I go to the gym. I go and play tennis. At the end of the day, two things I do not do. I do not watch television, and I do not scroll. And you might go, oh my God, what do you do to rest? But the truth is that doing play is actually way more restful for our body, for our being. Some kind of play, some kind of activity, way more restful than scrolling and watching TV. What we've got to understand is that when we're scrolling online, first of all, it's passive. Secondly, we are consuming so much darkness. Even we're watching a TV show. Try and find me a TV show that isn't anxiety-ridden, that isn't violent, that isn't doomsday kind of thing. So imagine you finish your day and then you're filling your brain with all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. So for me, almost every single night, I'm doing stuff. And if I'm at home, I'm reading, right? I love reading. Reading's a great way. for me to do it. But if we're talking about, like, I'm wondering whether you're asking me yet, because you haven't yet, like, how do we make these connections? At the moment, I just want to say, we think we don't have time, but actually we're spending so much of that time doing things that drain our energy and don't leave us feeling good.
Yeah, yeah. I always said to people who surface that as a excuse is we have the same 24 hours in the day. It's just how you use it. And when I was working full time, I decided to, launch an art business because I'm a painter and I really enjoyed it. And I found that I was getting more done when I was working because you had that limited amount of time that you had to do things. It's all about structure and commitment. But I think also the first step is just doing something.
I think often we're not taught as well. Like when everybody's doing something, we think it must be what you do. If everybody goes home and watches TV, and I come along and say, actually, scientifically, it's shown you have more energy if you go to an art class or you play categories with your friends, you would go, what? I don't understand that. And then you start experimenting on yourself and you start to see it. So I think that, unless someone helps us to see these things, helps us to make these changes, it can be difficult when everybody else goes home and crashes in front of the TV and, pulls out their phone and scrolls on it. Like, yeah, it's really a case of swimming upstream. And sometimes we just need someone to point out to us, try this or try that. And then we can start to see the truth in it.
Yeah, and that same book I mentioned earlier, they're talking about a electronic sabbatical at least one time a week, a full day of being off of it. But I think I like yours better is at the end of the day, it's just off. Clear your head, clear your brain.
Totally. Go and have some fun, like it's the whole idea of play is so powerful. And it's all well and good to say, once a week, have an electronic sabbatical. But let's be realistic. If 6 days of the week you're addicted to your phone, are you really on the 7th day going to give it up? And what do you do when you're having plans on that day? And I've got kids who need to get hold of me. I think that we have to be realistic. I'm much more about having a full-time, more conscious relationship with your devices rather than going, well, let's have 6 days where we eat as much rubbish as we want and then one day when we don't. I just know how people's brains work and I don't think it's realistic.
So in your situation, because you're practicing this, what do you do with your friends and people? You just basically let them know that, hey, if you're going to reach out to me after 5, 6 o'clock, I probably won't get back to you till the next day.
No, you just train people automatically. They start to learn, I remember when cell phones first came out, my sister would take 2 days to respond. So I learned it took her 2 days. So people know with me that I might take a week to respond. That's the truth because I have a lot of messages that come in. But I want to tell you something really important along those lines. I have a computer. This computer is open when I start work. When my work day is finished, it closes. In this computer is my email and my social media accounts for work. I have no emails on my devices. I have only one notification that comes in on my device. That's WhatsApp. Where I live here, everyone connects on WhatsApp. I have 2 phones. One phone is for work. One phone is for private life. There is zero crossover. So when my day is finished, the computer closes, the work phone's put away. If my team need to get hold of me urgently, they can on my personal phone. And that probably happens about once every 6 months. The added bonus is this. I was talking to a friend of mine who runs a business. I was telling her this last night. She was shocked. In my team, if you are outside of working hours and you're answering emails, you get 3 strikes. If that happens 3 times, you lose your job. So it's really important to me that my team has their work life and their home life. because we're in such a bleed at the moment, and it's an absolute nightmare. And it's so not good for our brains. It's so not good for our relationships. So I have very strict boundaries around it because I know how this works. And I know, I don't have news notifications, none of that. Things that people have as normal. I do not have an iWatch. I don't have anything like that. It is minimal. I do not want to be controlled by this technology. I want to be in charge of it. I want to be in charge of my focus. I want to be in charge of my happiness.
Yes, that makes a ton of sense. And obviously you've accomplished so much. Like I said at the beginning, it's like, wow, you've accomplished so much at such a young age because you have more time. You have more time than most people because you are putting up the boundaries, you are making the priorities, and you're making things happen, which is...
And also my mind isn't stressed like everybody else's because I'm not online looking at all these horrors that happen. It doesn't mean that I live under a rock. Once a day, I go to 2 news sites or 3, like often check the New Zealand news site as well. And I look at the headlines, and if there's something I want to see, that is a 15-minute process. It happens once a day. That is enough, right?
Right. No, that's great. That's great. So we talked about the act of starting friendships, and there's likely a lot of listeners who are here listening to this conversation going, well, okay, like Monique has it figured out. I'm not Monique.
Yeah.
Yet.
How do you do it? Is that the question? How do I do this?
Right. And, how do I even get started? What's 1 or 2 brave steps that our listeners can take if they're in that situation, feeling that way?
So I have one thing that can be a game changer, right? That most people, when they're starting a friendship, don't understand. What we need to do is we need to figure out what are the things that we love, right? So when I came to Costa Rica, much like you, Christine, I love playing tennis. Okay, I need to go to the tennis club. So I need to join the tennis club. So the first thing is I've got to be brave. I just have to be. Even me, right, who is so comfortable in social situations. It's like, oh my God, I've got to go to this thing by myself and I don't know anybody. Suck it up and do it. So find things that you're interested in. Make sure it's things that are in a group situation where there's a level of interaction, right? So a yoga class doesn't count. Because a yoga class is very, solo. You're doing it yourself. You're not interacting with people. And ideally, something where
Helen Rouleau, or 4 others.
Sorry.
Ideally, it's a activity where you need to be in connection with each other. So, and work as a team. So many years ago, I met one of my natural sisters. I'm adopted. And she was like, I really, want to spend this Easter weekend with you. So I was in New Zealand at the time. We drove down to the bottom of the South Island. We got in a canoe and we canoed for 4 days down this amazing river. We did this trip. And we left those 4 days so tight because we had to work as a team. So when you're on the tennis court and you're working as a team with someone else, there's connection that starts to happen. So it doesn't mean that all your activities need to be like this, but just to note, when you start working in connection with someone else in that way, you may actually find that there is a friendship that begins to develop. But the most important thing is this. When you go out, you join a group, you join a class, whatever it is, make sure it's something that is happening ideally on a weekly basis with the same people. So it doesn't mean that, like, for example, I've been doing a life drawing class, okay, which is crazy because I can't draw, but I've been going and absolutely loving it. So the people there who are at that class are not going to be my heart friends. But when I go out somewhere and I see them, they're so excited to see me. And maybe I'm with one of them and they have a friend, and suddenly that connection happens with the friend, and then I meet that person. So we've got to be open to all of that. Follow your curiosity, okay? Join groups or classes or communities around things that really interest you, all right? Because it does two things. It helps you to open the door to being with other people, but it also gets you excited about life because you're doing activities that you love. So authentic friendships are always, easier to make when you're focused on a shared passion, something that you both love, because that's what you want to do. You want to find connection with people that you have things in common with. And then let's say you go to one of these classes and there's someone there that you like. Like I created a book club when I first came here. And one of the girls from the book club and I've become really good friends. And I said to her the other day, you know, you didn't like ask me for dinner or anything like that. And she said, yeah, I know. I was just kind of waiting for you to do it. So don't wait for those invitations because everyone's craving connection. But they
Right.
always assume that everybody else is too busy. So be the initiator, schedule the coffee, suggest going for the walk, really make that first move because most people are super relieved when someone else takes that lead. And then you need to invest consistently. So if you have a friend, you make a friend or you start to find someone that you think could be a friend, you've got to understand that friendships need your care. So schedule regular touch points like walks or dinners or standing coffee dates. I have a friend here. I get my dog groomed once a month. Straight after that, her and I go and have brunch together on a Saturday. We don't see each other any other time than that. And that consistency helps to transform those acquaintances into friends. And then as it starts to deepen a little, it's really important to move beyond that surface level chat. So then slowly, as you start to trust someone, start to share something real about yourself and ask deeper questions. So that real connection happens when we stop performing and we start to show up authentically. And that thing of when we show up somewhere and we think, oh my God, no one's going to be interested in me. Listen, the key is this. Years ago, I had a client who was going to a party for the Oscars. She was working with a very famous actress, and she said to me, Mon, please, will you come with me? She was a client of mine. And I wish I could have gone, but I couldn't. And I said, listen, I can't come. And she said, I don't want to go then. And I said, all you've got to do is show up and be interested in the other person. If you're interested in the other person, there's no way you can make someone feel more loved than asking them about themselves, listening to what they say, asking follow-up questions. That is amazing. And, so often I'll be with someone and I will have, asked them so many questions about themselves and they come away going, oh my God, I had the most amazing conversation. I've not told them anything about myself. I don't mind. It doesn't bother me, but I've not said anything because they feel so good because I was focusing on them, finding out about them. So you never have to worry about whether you're interesting enough. Just be curious and interested. So go and do group things. Show up to things consistently. If someone says, hey, do you want to come to this dinner? Say yes. You have no idea who could be there, right? And then when you find people that resonate, take care of that connection, just really take care of it. And then as time goes on, allow yourself to deepen it. And know that I've been here for 3 years, and probably the first year of being here, I had really mostly mates. I had one good friend, and now I've got a bunch. So one friend leads to another, to another, to another. So there's so much ability to do it, but we just have to know I've got to start in the places of things that I'm interested in.
Yeah, and accept the invitations. I love what you said about being a good listener. That takes the pressure off of the individual who is worried about what they're going to share, what they're going to say, and helps. I mean, it just helps the I guess the relationship start off on a good foot as I think about it. I was going to say something else about that in particular, just about listening um, and making that connection. But yeah, that's definitely powerful. And that helps people be, I guess, a little bit more brave because the pressure really isn't on them to tell their story. It's about being an observer and also connecting in an
Totally.
authentic way.
And what I always focus on is when I'm meeting someone new, I know something about everybody. If I show up to something and there's a bunch of people and everyone is as nervous as I am. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the first thing to understand. If you can be the person that creates a safe space,
Mm-hmm.
then everyone's going to feel safer and better. All right.
Yes.
So it's really an important thing to say, all I've got to do is make this space feel a little bit safe because this other person is just as nervous as I am.
Right.
It's a
Right.
game changer. They're not
It is.
confident. They might look confident. They might look in control, but more than likely they're not because we're always a little bit nervous when we meet new people.
Absolutely. One of my favorite icebreaker questions is to say to someone, and it's so easy. It's just like if you're at a tennis event. So you say like, so what do you do when you're not playing tennis?
Nice.
And it just opens it up. What do you do when you're not at the awards show? What do you do when and
Yeah.
it's always about like not what your work or your career is, but what are you learning that's new? What are you experiencing?
Yeah.
And that seems to always lead to some interesting
It's a
conversations.
great one because what you want to do is get people in the mindset of things that they're excited and passionate about. Then their
Mhm.
brain associates you with excitement and passion. And then if you're able to then over time just be really interested in them, then their brain associates you with someone that I feel seen by. And listen, here's something really important because we were talking about phones and things. Sherry Turkle, she's a researcher at MIT University. She specializes in technology and communication. She found through her studies that if you are in a conversation, I was pointing this out to my friends who were at dinner last night. If you're in a conversation and there's a phone on the table, even if that phone is face down and on silent, the level of depth of connection will be a lot less than if that phone wasn't visible. Because what happens is that our brains are thinking at any moment I could be interrupted. So it's
Mhm.
really important because we do this all the time without realizing the impact until it comes to us. But if you're in a conversation with someone and they suddenly pick up their phone and say, hang on just a minute, I've got to take this call or I've got to do this text. The message that is received is, I'm not important.
Right.
So it's absolutely, like, it is one of the most modern, hurtful things we can do to another human being is prioritize whoever or whatever is on our phone beforehand. Last night when we were at dinner, there were four of us and one has a baby and the nanny was looking after the baby. And she said at the beginning of dinner, listen, I've got to leave my phone on. I'm going to leave it over there just in case the nanny has to call. To me, that is completely reasonable. All right. But
Mhm.
a lot of people will sit there and be, I've got kids and I've got to look at all the stuff and there's notifications coming through and all sorts of stuff. I will not be with people. I will not be in a relationship with people who prioritize their phone. And so I always expect, and if people have their phone out at dinner, I explain this to them and I ask them to put their phone away so that we can go there. So last night, we have dinner. We all come together at 4:00, 9:30. We call it this group of friends, we call it the portal. 9:30, we're still just sitting there right in it. Suddenly I've got, oh my God, I've got to go. Like, you guys have got to get out of my house. I've got to get some sleep. And
Mhm.
that's where you want to go. You want to go into that flow state in your
Mhm.
friendships so that everything is dissolved and disappeared. And note, these friends are very new friends of mine. This is only the third time that I've spent time with them. So it's a beautiful thing when you meet the right people, you can make that connection and you want to make the circumstances conducive. Phones away, okay? Phones away. It will destroy your connections.
Yeah, yeah. Monique, we could talk for days.
I
And
know we
I
could.
wish we could.
God.
Oh, so we need to wrap up because I know you have something you need to move to next. So on your website, which is moniquerhodes.com, I will put that in the show notes. You have a happiness quiz to
I
get
do.
people started.
Yeah.
So is there anything more you want to say about that?
Do it.
Do it.
Go and do it. See what your happiness levels are like. You get a personalized report. Check it out. See where, just see where it at. I want everybody to understand that you are so much more in control of this than you could ever have dreamed of. I don't teach this stuff because I'm magically happy. I teach this stuff because when I was 17, I tried to take my own life because I was suffering from so much depression. I know what it is like to be anxious, depressed, overwhelmed, and afraid. I know that it is 100% possible to turn that round. And there's no magic pill out there that makes it happen. If you know how to do the work within yourself, you can completely change and transform your life. So I just encourage people to do the quiz, see where you're at, and know that you have the ability to be in charge.
Yeah, so much wisdom shared in this little 30 minutes. I can't wait for everyone to hear it. Thank you so much for being such a beautiful guest and so generous with your time.
Thank you for having me, Christine. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So with that, we will close. Until next time, everyone.
Thank you for listening. Our hope is to spark a little joy, inspire, and educate our listeners in ways to live an even more meaningful life. If you have reactions to share from what you've heard, please visit our website, refirement.life, to leave a voice message. You may even be featured in a future episode. To keep in touch, subscribe to our podcast, Refirement Life, using the podcast player of your choice. Always remember, you are never too old to set a new goal or to dream a new dream. Thanks again for joining us on this episode. Until next time.